welcome back to Dance Geek. I've got another heavily geeky video for you. This is to help studio owners set up their studios for Zoom classes. This topic today is lesson number 2, and it's scheduling. Please note, if you're watching this for any other industry, the way I'm going to go through the scheduling is based on a method that works for dance studios, specifically dance studios in Australia. So what I mean by that is I have worked with quite a few other studios and some studios in the States, some in the UK, where we've figured out how to make Zoom work in alignment with the way studios run in the non-corona climate. So this isn't actually the way Zoom intended you to use this kind of scheduling feature. And by that, I'm referring to having multiple classes running at the same time, which is a very common thing in the dance teaching world. So this is a method where you're not going to be using the standard hosting and user management feature of Zoom the way Zoom intends you to use it. You're going to have separate accounts, complete separate accounts for each of the studios or rooms rather that you run dance classes in. So if you have 3 classes running at the same time, that's the most classes you have at once, and in your regular studio that's 3 rooms, then you're going to have 3 different Zoom logins that are not linked to each other. They're just owned by your studio. There's lots of reasons why that has been the decided preferred method within the dance industry, and no, it's not the optimal Zoom method of doing it, but it works better for the way our businesses run. So that's how I'm going to teach you to do it. As always with my videos, if you have any questions, either put them in the comments. Comments are enabled for this video because it's not directed at kids, so I've turned the comment section on, or just send me an email, dancegeek0@gmail.com, and I will reply. I want to help out as much as I can. So here we go. Okay, so scheduling. This method of scheduling is based on using a completely separate account for each room or studio you'd be teaching in. So if you have 3 classes running at the same time and you've tried every other way to manage your schedule, but you have to have 3 classes running at the same time, then this method that I'm going to teach you is to have 3 pro accounts with Zoom, 3 separate accounts, not using the user management feature. All right, we're jumping into my account in the web client of Zoom. This is the user management feature that I was telling you about. We're not going to use that. There are many reasons why. I'm not going to get into it now, but it's not conducive to dance studio management and the way dance studios are generally run. So it seems to be the easiest way to do it is to have separate accounts through here. Your teachers will then log in. You give them the login details to whichever studio, quotation marks, they need to be in. So you'll have I've got a little sample timetable of just a Monday night. So Monday night in this studio, I have, I'm just going to put another column in here. 3 teachers teach, and I've got 3 studios. Okay. If you run it this way and Jackie's in studio 1 for the whole night, Lucy's in studio 2 for the whole night, Hermione's in studio 3 for the whole night, then that just transfers over easily. This is how you want to get your schedule before you start putting things into Zoom though. It is much more effective to structure your Zoom timetable around your teachers, not around your students and how many students you have in the class. That's how we generally do it in the industry when we're doing real timetables for physical studios. You'll think about how many students you can fit in each different room because of the different sizes of rooms and all of that. But with Zoom, the best way to do it is to structure it based on the teacher. The reason that is if we have a look here in this hypothetical situation, at 4 o'clock to 5 p.m. we have grade 1 ballet taught by Jackie. At the same time, we have grade 4 jazz taught by Lucy. Lucy then at 5 o'clock gets the grade 1s for jazz, and Jackie gets the grade 4s for ballet. So the kids are just switching styles and switching teachers. It'll probably be the same kids. Now, if you were to keep the kids in the same room, they're going to need a new meeting set up anyway, most likely. And if Jackie was then to finish her ballet class right on 5 o'clock and then logged out and logged in by about 5:01 in this studio, in Studio 2, and logged in there, but Lucy, if she was a little bit late running with the jazz, it would completely boot her out straight away as soon as Jackie logged in. So wherever possible, you want to avoid the teachers having to change logins throughout the one night. Your kids are going to change. If you do a meeting per class, which is what I recommend you do, if you do one meeting for this class, one meeting for this class, one meeting for this class, and so on, then the kids are going to be clicking a different link for each class anyway. Same as if they would take their shoes off, go to another studio, all of that. So they're not changing studios because they're going to be doing it in the same space in their home, but they'll just click a different link and into their next class. The teachers will also click another link, but they won't need to log out anymore. Once they're logged into the account that they need to be in, they just come into this meetings list and click on the next meeting to start it. How you actually schedule those meetings, you're only going to need to do this once, because Zoom thankfully has this little feature here of a reoccurring meeting. This screen is super easy to navigate through because the majority of it, the top part of it, is all based on just your standard calendar scheduling software. So if you've used the calendar on your phone, if you've used the calendar on Google Calendar or even Outlook, those sorts of things, this is the same. It's pretty much the same thing. One thing I will mention is there is no specific field in this page that asks you to put in the teacher's name, because that's not a function of Zoom. So if you want to put the teacher's name in, I'd recommend putting it in the description, which is optional, or in the topic, which is the title of the class, the name of the class. So you'd put, say, grade 3 ballet with Miss Laura, whoever she is. I'm sure she's a lovely teacher. Put in the time. I'm just going to leave that as is. You can change the time here, the duration. You can change the time as well. Now, just as a quick side note, you have these options here that go per half hour. If you need that to be different, if we needed it to start at 4:15, you can click your cursor in the cell, backspace, and manually type 4:15 and enter, and it will save that here. However, in duration, in this section, you can't use a manual entry. So if you needed to change it here, you can't. Okay, you probably won't need to, but that's only if it'd only be if you needed to for some reason, if your class was like finishing at 4:10 or starting at 4:10 or something. It won't change it. You can only have 0, 15, 30 or 45. So if you do need a number that's not provided here for the duration, then go for longer. So if you needed the class to run for 1 hour and 10, make it 1 hour and 15, then that way it's not going to stop. It'll just keep going, and then your teacher can stop it. They'll have that extra bit of time and all will be good. Click the reoccurring. You want it to reoccur most of the time. You're going to be weekly, obviously, and it repeats every 1 week. If it's a class that's every second week, you might switch things up or whatever. You can do that here as well, but we're just going to, standard one would be it repeats every week. Make sure it's got the right day on it, every Thursday, and then the end date, which is very, very problematic in this current climate because we don't know when this situation is going to end. But for a standard term, let's just go for an Australian school term, 10 weeks. We're going to end it after 10 weeks. I like, for security purposes, to click registration required, but I keep it on this first option. This means that your students will register the first time, but then every other time they do this class, they're not going to need to do this registration process. And registering just is Zoom's way of making sure that they have a Zoom account. It's harder for your classes to be hacked that way. There's your meeting password generated. These are settings that I went through in my other video that are automatically populated based on your master settings. These are also based on the master settings. So we click save, and there is our class saved, grade 3 ballet. And if we go back to our meetings, which you can click on this one here, or you can just click here, we can see that we have, there it is. Next Thursday is our first grade 3 ballet with Miss Laura. Now, getting that information to your students, you can do it any way you do your normal communications, online communications with your students, whether that be through Facebook, through email, or a combination of both. You might have an online portal that you already use. Whatever way you do it, keep with that system. Make sure they get this registration URL and the password. They're the main things they need. It would also be very good to give them the class name. So give them the class name, copy and paste that, copy and paste the password, and copy and paste this URL. In the web, I'm going to show you something slightly different in the, a slightly different way of getting this information to them. I'm now in the the Zoom client. Oh, had a bit of word vomit then. These are all of my meetings that I have. There's my one from Miss Laura, grade 3 ballet. If I click on that and go to show meeting invitation, Zoom have already created a rather kind of helpful invitation that you can just click copy or drag and select and copy it all, and then paste it into either a Facebook post or an email, and off you go. I don't recommend including any of this last bit that's about phone numbers and things like that, because it kind of just confuses people. It's up to you whether you include this bit here with the iCalendar. This is a link that will automatically add this and all of the recurrences of this meeting to the calendar connected to the device. So this is the way that your parents, if they use iCalendars and anything like that, if they use that on their device, which a lot of people do, then they can click that and it will add it to their calendar. So I recommend leaving that in. As a parent, that's something that I would love. So it might not make a lot of sense to you, but it is something that parents might really like. And you've got there the topic of what the class is, the time, and then all of the occurrences of that time, the meeting link, which is the same for every recurrence of this class. You don't need to send them a new email every week. It will be the same one every week, and there's the password. So to avoid confusion, I would get rid of all of that bit. So don't actually copy that bit. I'd copy all of this part. You can change the host if you want. You can put any other sorts of information within this email as well and send it off to them, or Facebook post, whatever it is. How you control the spread of this information, as in the link and the password, how you securely share that with people is going to determine how secure the lesson is. So if you put this meeting ID and password on a public Facebook post, then you're going to need to expect that people will Zoom bomb, because you've given them the information. You've given them the keys to that room, and they're walking in and they're going to do whatever they want. So don't put it on a public page. Just email it to the students that need that information. Now, something else the other thing you need to remember is you're going to need to tell your teachers which studio they're in at which time on which night, which you'd normally do anyway. but it's much more important with Zoom because if they're in Studio One, then they're going to be logging into a set account. So the reason I've got info and Claire.h and support, in my training, I go over some other features where we use the three email accounts we use are info at gmail.com, claire.h at gmail.com. They're all made up ones, so don't worry about emailing them. And so Lucy knows that she has to log into the claire.h at gmail.com account on Monday nights to teach these two classes. Hermione logs into the support at gmail.com, and the only people you give that information to log into the account are the teachers. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have any questions about it that you just can't figure out, send me an email. I said that at the start. I'll say it again. Send me an email. I will help you out. The next lesson I'm going to be posting is going to be about running the actual classes in Zoom. Now, I'm not going to focus just yet on like the lesson planning and filming techniques, but more on how to actually use the Zoom screen whilst you're teaching, and equipment that you'll need to use. And equipment is a bit of a, you'll use what you can get basically, but I'm going to give you lots of options in that. So lesson number 3, running a Zoom class, is coming soon. Thanks guys. See ya.